The cheap plastic stick burned against my palm, hidden behind the folds of my oversized sweater. 2 pink lines, positive. I stood in the center of our cramped living room, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The scent of burnt garlic bread still lingered in the air, my failed attempt at a fancy anniversary dinner, but I didn't care. This changed everything. 5 years of struggle, of instant noodles, ensuring a single bus pass, finally had a purpose. We were going to be a family. The front door creaked open, snapping me out of my daze. "You're late, but I have..." Elara, stop. His voice wasn't warm. It was ice. He didn't even look at me as he walked past, tossing his briefcase onto the sagging sofa. He didn't look tired. He looked resolved. I froze, my hands tightening around the pregnancy test behind my back. Is everything okay? Did something happen at work?" "Work is fine," he muttered, loosening his tie. He finally turned to face me, his eyes cold and detached. "Actually, work is better than ever. That's why we need to talk." A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. Talk? About what? "About us," he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm leaving, Elara." The air left the room. "Leaving? For a business trip?" "No," he said flatly. "I'm moving out. I'm ending this." I blinked, sure I had misheard him. "What, Liam? It's our anniversary." 5 years, you. You can't be serious." "I am perfectly serious," he replied, walking toward the bedroom. I scrambled after him, watching as he pulled a suitcase from the top of the closet. "Why?" My voice cracked. "Is it something I did? We can fix it." "Whatever it is, we can fix it." He threw a stack of shirts into the case, not bothering to fold them. "There is nothing to fix. That's the problem. You're happy with this." He gestured vaguely at our peeling wallpaper. "I worked 2 jobs to support your degree," I cried, grabbing his arm. "How can you say that?" He shook me off like I was dirt. "And that's all you'll ever do, wait tables and struggle." "I have a future now, Laura. A real one." "A future?" I whispered. "She gets me, she understands ambition. She can introduce me to a world you can't even imagine." My stomach turned. "Chloe? The heiress? You're leaving me for your boss's daughter?" "I'm leaving you for a life," he corrected sharply. "Love doesn't pay the bills, Alara. It doesn't buy penthouses or respect. Chloe can give me that." But we love each other," I stammered, tears blurring my vision. "Doesn't that matter?" He scoffed, zipping up the suitcase. "Grow up. Love is a luxury for people who can afford it. Right now, you're just a burden, a dead weight dragging me down. A burden." The word struck me physically. My hand twitched behind my back, the plastic test slick with sweat. I opened my mouth to scream, "I'm pregnant." "You're a father." But the words died in my throat. If I told him now, would he stay? And if he did, would he hate our child for ruining his chance at glory? He looked at me with such absolute contempt that I knew the answer. He wouldn't see a baby. He would see another Bill, another anchor. I couldn't let him look at my child with that hate. I swallowed the truth, tasting bile. So 5 years meant nothing? I was just a placeholder until someone richer came along? "Don't be dramatic," he said, hoisting the bag over his shoulder. He walked to the front door and I followed, my legs feeling like lead. He paused at the threshold, digging into his pocket. He pulled out his key, the one with the little silver house keychain I bought him for our first Christmas. "Here," he said, tossing it onto the wobbly dining table. It clattered loudly in the silence. "Rent is paid until the end of the month. Figure it out." "Liam, please," I whispered, my pride shattering. He didn't look back. "Goodbye, Alara." The door slammed shut. The sound echoed through the empty hallway, vibrating in my bones. I sank to the floor, the cold linoleum biting into my knees. Slowly, I brought my hand out from behind my back. The 2 pink lines stared up at me, bright and accusatory. "It's just us now, little one," I sobbed into the silence, clutching the plastic to my chest. Just us. The silence in the apartment was louder than Liam's shouting ever was. 2 weeks. That's all it took for my world to turn gray. I stared at the red eviction stamp on the door. "Please," I whispered to the empty hallway, "a few more days." But the landlord didn't care about a broken heart or a secret pregnancy. My bank account was a dessert. Liam had taken every cent of our joint savings. "He called it an exit fee," I whispered, looking at the empty space where his desk used to be. He didn't even leave me enough for a loaf of bread. The rain outside was freezing. It soaked through my thin coat, chilling my bones. I clutched my single suitcase, the wheels rattling against the uneven pavement. "We're okay," I muttered, pressing a hand to my flat stomach. "I've got you. We don't need him." I walked until my legs burned, finally stopping at the Neon Rest Motel. The clerk, a man with a stained shirt, looked at me with pity. "How much for the night?" I asked, my teeth chattering. $40, he said, tapping the counter. "Plus a $10 key deposit." I opened my wallet. 2 20s and a 10. "My last $50. "I'll take it." Inside the room, the heater groaned but produced no heat. I sat on the edge of the stained bed, counting the coins left in my pocket. 11 cents. What am I going to do? I choked out. The hunger was starting to bite. A heavy knock startled me. I opened the door to find Mrs. Gable, my former landlady. Her face was set in its usual stern mask. "I saw you dragging that bag, Alara," she said, her voice gravelly. "I figured you'd head for the cheapest hole in the city." I wasn't wrong. "I'm sorry about the rent, Mrs. Gable," I said, looking at my feet. "I'll pay you back. I just need a job." "Any job." She stepped inside, sniffing the air with distaste. "Leon is a fool, a shiny, hollow fool. I always told my husband that boy had the spine of a jellyfish." "He's gone," I said, the words still hurting. "He's with Chloe Vance now." "I know who he's with." "Trash finds a bin," she sighed. "Listen, I have a room, the attic in my own house. It's dusty and the stairs are steep, but it's dry. And I need someone to scrub the hallways and manage the trash at the apartment complex. My knees aren't what they used to be." I looked up, hope flickering. "You want me to work for you?" "It's not charity," she snapped, though her eyes softened. "It's a trade, room for labor. Do you want it or not?" "I don't have all night." "Yes," I breathed. "Thank you, please." "Then pack that bag. We leave now. This place smells like regret." As I followed her out into the rain, I looked back at the motel. I was at rock bottom. But as I touched my stomach, a cold, hard resolve settled in my chest. "Never again," I whispered. "I will never let a man hold the key to my life again. From now on, I am my own savior. I promise this to myself. I really do." "Order up, Alara. Move it." The manager's voice grated against my ears like sandpaper. I wiped sweat from my forehead, balancing 3 plates of greasy burgers on my arm. My ankles were swollen, throbbing in rhythm with the diner's flickering neon sign. "I'm coming, Carl," I shouted back, forcing a smile as I reached table 6. "Took you long enough," the man in the trucker hat grumbled, tapping his watch. "Coffee's cold." "I'll get a fresh pot, sir," I said, reaching for his mug. My hand trembled, slightly exhaustion or hunger, I wasn't sure. Suddenly, a hand intercepted the mug before I could touch it. It was Sarah. She glared at the man, her gums snapping loudly. "She's been running for 6 hours straight, honey," Sarah said, her voice sharp but protective. "The coffee pot is 5 feet away. If you need it that bad, walk." The man blinked, muttering into his beard, but he didn't argue. Sarah steered me toward the kitchen, away from the prying eyes of the customers. "Sit," she ordered, pointing to a milk crate near the dishwasher. "You look like you're about to faint." "I can't sit, Sarah. I need the tips." "I have to pay Mrs. Gable," I protested, though I sank onto the crate anyway, my legs giving out. "You need to eat," she countered, sliding a plate of fries and a grilled cheese toward me. "And so does the little one," I froze, a fry halfway to my mouth. I looked up at her, panic tightening my chest. You know?" Sarah rolled her eyes, leaning against the counter. "Alara, you've been wearing that apron tied so loose it's practically falling off. Plus, you run to the bathroom every morning at 10 a.m. like clockwork. I'm not blind." I looked down, shame heating my cheeks. "I can't lose this job, Sarah. I need the money. I'm all alone." "You won't lose it." "I got your back," she said softly, squeezing my shoulder. "But you can't keep doing double shifts. You're going to break." "I have to," I whispered, taking a bite of the sandwich. It tasted like heaven. Later that night, the diner was finally empty. I sat in a booth, counting my tips. $42, it wasn't enough for diapers, let alone rent. My eyes drifted to a discarded magazine on the table. City Life Weekly. And there he was, Liam. He was wearing a tuxedo, holding a champagne glass. His arm was wrapped around a woman in a shimmering gold gown. Chloe. The headline screamed, Power Couple of the Year, The Rise of Liam Harper. My breath hitched. He looked like a prince, not a single worry line on his face, no guilt. No regret, just success. Is that the guy? Sarah asked, wiping down the table next to me. I nodded, my finger tracing his smiling face. That's him. The father, he looks happy, Sarah said carefully, reading my expression. He looks rich, I corrected, a cold fire igniting in my chest. The sadness I'd carried for months evaporated, replaced by searing white-hot anger. He was drinking champagne while I was counting pennies for bread. He was building an empire while I was cleaning grease traps. He thinks I'm trash, I murmured, my voice hardening. He thinks I'm a burden. So prove him wrong, Sarah said, tossing her rag into a bucket. Don't let him win. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. Tired eyes, messy hair, grease-stained uniform. But beneath the exhaustion, I felt a spark. I will, I said, grabbing the magazine and shoving it into my bag. That night, instead of sleeping, I went to the 24-hour public library. I pulled a thick book off the shelf, Introduction to Graphic Design. My eyes burned, but I forced them open. We aren't just going to survive, little one, I whispered to my belly, opening the first page. We are going to make him regret every single day he didn't choose us. One more push, Alora, you're almost there. The doctor's voice was a distant echo through the haze of pain. I screamed, gripping the cold metal rails of the hospital bed. He's here, the nurse whispered, placing the warm, squirming bundle on my chest. They were blue, his blue. Liam's eyes stared back at me, innocent and clear. For a second, the pain of the betrayal flared hot in my chest, but then Leo's tiny hand curled around my finger, squeezing tight. You have his eyes, I whispered, kissing his forehead. But you have my heart, and that's what matters. 6 weeks later, the romantic haze of motherhood had been replaced by the brutal reality of survival. Table 4 needs a refill, Alara, Sarah called out, passing me with a tray of dirty dishes. On it, I said, wiping my hands on my apron. It was my break. I sat in the back corner booth, Leo's stroller tucked safely beside me. He was fast asleep, oblivious to the clatter of silverware and the smell of frying grease. I pulled a crumpled napkin and a black pen from my pocket. My hand moved automatically, sketching sharp, modern lines, a logo concept I had been dreaming up for a portfolio I hoped to build one day. That's interesting balance, a deep voice said from above me. I jumped, nearly dropping my pen. A man stood there. He wasn't like our usual customers. His suit was tailored navy wool, his watch gleamed under the cheap diner lights, and his eyes were sharp, intelligent. I'm sorry? I stammered, covering the napkin. Can I get you a menu? No, he said, sliding into the seat opposite me without asking. I'm looking at the design. The negative space. It's clever. It's just a doodle, I said defensively. I'm just a waitress. And I'm just a customer, he replied smoothly, extending a hand. Julian, and you are? Alara, I said, hesitantly shaking his hand. His grip was firm. Well, Alara, I own a tech startup. We launch in 2 months, and our branding is a disaster. I've interviewed 5 agencies, and none of them have the ... Could I see in that napkin? I blinked. You're joking. I never joke about business, Julian said, his expression serious. He pulled a sleek business card from his pocket and slid it across the table. I need 3 logo variations by Monday. If I like them, I'll pay you $2,000. $2,000? I choked out. That was 3 months of tips. Consider it a retainer, he said, standing up. He looked down at Leo's stroller, his expression softening for a fraction of a second. Talent can be found anywhere, Alara. Don't let this place bury it. He walked away before I could answer. I sat there frozen. $2,000? It was a fortune. I looked at the business card, then at Leo's sleeping face. He shifted, letting out a small sigh. I stayed up for 3 nights straight. When I emailed the files on Monday morning, my hands were shaking. A reply came 5 minutes later. Perfect. Check is in the mail. When can you start the website? I stared at the screen, tears pricking my eyes. It wasn't just money, it was a ladder, and I was going to climb it. $3 million, Julian said, tossing a folder onto my mahogany desk. That's the net profit from the Tokyo launch alone. I barely glanced at the numbers, swiping through the tablet in front of me. Good, reinvest 50% into the AI division. I want the beta ready by next spring. Julian chuckled, sinking into the leather chair opposite me. You know, most CEOs would take a moment to breathe. Maybe pop some champagne? You've built E-Designs into a global beast in 5 years, Alara. Rest is for people who are satisfied, I replied without looking up. I'm not. Clearly, he said, tapping the desk. How's the house hunt? The penthouse not big enough for you and Leo anymore? It's glass and steel, Julian. It's cold, I sighed, finally setting the tablet down. Leo wants a dog. You can't have a golden retriever on the 45th floor. I need an estate. Something with gates, something permanent. I saw a listing in the hills, Julian mentioned casually. The historic Hilltop estate. Needs work, but it's a fortress. The Hilltop? I froze. That was the house. The one Liam used to drool over when we drove past it in his rusted sedan. Interested? Maybe, I murmured. My eyes drifted back to the tablet. A gossip column was open. Vance Ayre spotted screaming at husband. Is the fairy tale over? Julian followed my gaze and sighed. Alara, stop. I'm not doing anything. You're pain shopping, he said gently. Rumor is Daddy Vance is cutting them off. He looks small, I observed, zooming in on the grainy photo of Liam. He was grayer, hunching his shoulders against the rain. He used to look so big to me. He was never big. You were just on your knees, Julian said, his voice hard. Stand up, Alara, you're taller than him now. He slid a heavy cream-colored envelope across the desk. This came for the CEO of E-Designs. I broke the wax seal. The annual Vance charity auction. They want my money, I said dryly. They want everyone's money. They're bleeding cash, Julian corrected. Liam will be there, hunting for a bailout. And Chloe? Parading her title, trying to pretend the ship isn't sinking. I ran my thumb over the embossed lettering. If I go, they won't know it's me, not at first. Alara Stone is just a name on a check to them. And when they see you? Julian asked, leaning forward. When they see the woman who built an empire from a diner booth? What then? Then I smiled, a cold, sharp thing that didn't reach my eyes. I watched them realize that they bet on the wrong horse. I uncapped my fountain pen and signed the RSVP line. You're really going to do this? Julian asked quietly. I'm done watching from the shadows, Julian, I said, handing him the invite. Book the stylist. I want a dress that stops hearts. And Julian? Yeah? Make sure it's blood red. The iron gates are original. The realtor, a woman named Miss Halloway with a tight bun and tighter smile, chirped. Imported from Italy in the 20s. I ran my hand over the cold metal. They're imposing. They offer privacy, she corrected, unlocking the massive oak doors. Something I assume a woman of your stature values. I value keeping things out, I murmured, stepping into the foyer. The echo of my heels on the black and white marble floors sounded like gunshots. Click, click. It was the sound of authority. 5 years ago, my sneakers squeaked on the linoleum of a diner. The ceiling is 30 feet high, Miss Halloway gestured dramatically. The chandelier is crystal. I looked up. It was breathtaking, but all I could see was Liam. I remembered us parking his beat-up Honda Civic at the bottom of this hill. We shared a bag of stale chips, looking up at these lit windows. See that, Alara? He had said, pointing a greasy finger. And I'll look down on all the ants scrounging below. Miss Stone? I blinked, the memory dissolving. It's nice, but it feels contested. Miss Halloway hesitated, clutching her clipboard. You have good instincts. We do have another interested party. A young couple. Oh? I walked toward the grand staircase, trailing my hand along the banister. Why haven't they closed? Financing, she whispered, as if it were a dirty word. The gentleman ... he is very eager. Desperate, actually. He keeps calling the owner, promising that his funds are clearing soon. He says it's his destiny to own this house. I suppressed a smile. Destiny. It was Liam, it had to be. He was probably leveraging every cent of the Vance money he didn't actually have yet to try and buy back his ego. But the banks aren't biting? I asked. His credit is ... overextended, she admitted. And his wife seems less enthusiastic. But he insists he can make the down payment by Friday. Friday is 3 days away, I noted, walking into the main salon. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline. I could see the smog hovering over the district where I used to scrub toilets. I know, the seller is getting anxious, Miss Holloway sighed. But it's the only offer on the table. Not anymore, I said softly. I looked out at the sprawling garden. I imagined Leo there. A swing set under the old oak tree. A puppy chasing him through the grass. No more cramped apartments, no more attic dust. This wasn't just a house, it was a fortress for my son. I want it, I said, turning to face her. Wonderful. She beamed. We can draw up a letter of intent. If you can match his offer, we might. I'm not matching his offer, I cut in. I'm beating it. And I'm not writing a letter. I reached into my purse and pulled out my checkbook. The asking price is $4 million, correct? Yes, but I'll pay 4.2, I said, uncapping my pen. On one condition. Anything, she breathed, eyeing the checkbook. We closed today. No banks, no waiting for loans to clear. Cash. Miss Holloway's jaw dropped. Cash? For the whole amount? Is that a problem? No, of course not. It's just ... the other buyer ... He's going to be devastated. He's been trying to buy this place for months. I ripped the check from the book. The sound was crisp and final. Tell him, I said, handing it to her, that he should have saved his money instead of spending it on appearances. Kings don't need loans, Miss Holloway. She looked at the check, then at me, a newfound respect in her eyes. I'll call the owner immediately. Good, I said, turning back to the window to watch the sunset over my city. Tell him the queen has arrived. You look like a warhead wrapped in silk, Julian whispered, offering me his arm. I smoothed the fabric of my crimson gown. It was a violent, unapologetic red. I feel like one. Good, he smiled, his eyes glinting. Because we're about to drop the bomb. The heavy oak doors of the ballroom swung open. The hum of conversation died instantly. I felt the weight of 300 pairs of eyes landing on us. 5 years ago, I would have shrunk away, terrified of taking up space. Tonight, I lifted my chin. Walk slow, Julian murmured. Let them look. We moved through the crowd like a ship cutting through ice. I heard the whispers ripple around us. Who is that? Is that Julian Thorne? Who is he with? That dress. Isn't that the CEO of E-Designs? And then the sea of tuxedos parted and I saw him. Liam. He was standing near the buffet, holding a half-empty glass of champagne. He looked ... gray. The sharp, arrogant jawline I remembered was softened by weight gain, and his suit jacket bunched awkwardly at the shoulders. He looked tired, defeated. Beside him, Chloe was typing furiously on her phone, looking bored out of her mind. As if feeling my gaze, Liam looked up. Our eyes locked. His face went slack. The color drained from his skin, leaving him ghostly pale. His mouth opened, forming a silent name. Smash. The crystal flute slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Champagne splattered onto his shoes and the hem of Chloe's dress. Liam, you idiot! Chloe shrieked, jumping back. Look what you did to my Prada. He didn't hear her. He was staring at me as if he were seeing a ghost. He took a stumbling step forward, his hands trembling. Alara? He choked out, his voice thin and disbelief-ridden. Is that ... you? He looked at the diamonds around my neck, the custom gown. The way Julian's hand rested possessively on the small of my back. He looked at me and for the first time, he didn't see a burden. He saw a goddess. Alara, wait, he started, reaching out a hand. I didn't blink. I didn't stop. I simply pivoted on my heel, turning my back on him completely. Mr. Vance, I said, pitching my voice to be smooth and warm. An older man with silver hair and a permanent scowl turned around. His eyes widened when he saw me. Miss Stone, Mr. Vance said, a genuine smile breaking through his stoic mask. He extended a hand, ignoring the commotion behind us. I didn't think you'd come. I've been trying to get a meeting with you for months regarding your rebranding strategies. I'm a busy woman, Mr. Vance, I said, shaking his hand firmly. But for a good cause, I make time. Alara? Liam's voice came from behind me, closer now. Alara, please, look at me. Mr. Vance's smile vanished. He looked over my shoulder, his expression curdling into disgust. Liam, for God's sake, Vance barked. Stop gaping like a fish and clean up that glass. You're embarrassing my daughter. But That's Alara, Liam stammered, pointing at me like a child. We used to ... I don't care who she used to be, Vance snapped, cutting him off. I care who she is now. She is the CEO of the company but is currently outperforming ours in every sector. Show some respect or go wait in the car. Liam flinched as if he'd been slapped. I finally turned my head, looking at him over my shoulder. I didn't smile, I didn't frown. I looked at him with the same indifference one would show a stranger. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Vance, I said, turning back to the father. Let's discuss that merger you mentioned in your email. I think eDesigns might finally be ready to acquire some ... lesser assets. From the corner of my eye, I saw Liam sink back against the wall. He watched us, clutching a napkin, realizing that while he was cleaning up messes, I was owning the room. The distance between us wasn't just physical anymore. It was a universe. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Every notification felt like a ghost trying to claw its way back from the grave. Alara, please, the latest message read. I can't sleep. I can't believe it's really you. We need to talk about that night. I didn't reply. I deleted the thread and looked out at the city from my balcony. He's still at it? Julian asked, stepping out into the cool night air with 2 glasses of wine. He's desperate, I said, taking a glass. He thinks words can fix 5 years of silence. Words are cheap, Julian said, leaning against the railing. Actions cost everything. He paid his price when he walked out that door. I looked at Julian. In the moonlight, his face was kind, steady. You've done so much for me. A project? He laughed softly, setting his glass down. He took my hand, his palm warm against mine. Alara, I've watched you turn crumbs into an empire. I didn't help you because you were a project. I felt my heart skip. This wasn't the frantic, needy love I had for Liam. This was something deeper, something earned. Julian, you don't have to say it yet, he whispered. Just know I'm not going anywhere. The next morning, the peace was shattered. Miss Stone? My assistant's voice crackled over the intercom. There's a man in the lobby. He's making a scene. He says he's family. I walked to the glass doors of the executive suite. Liam was there, his face flushed, arguing with 2 security guards. He looked pathetic. His tie was crooked and his eyes were bloodshot. Let me through, he yelled. Alara, a look at me. I stopped behind the glass. I didn't open it. I never stopped thinking about you. We can start over. I'll help you run this place. You'll help me? I let out a dry, hollow laugh. You couldn't even help yourself to a clean suit today. I love you, he shrieked as the guards grabbed his arms. No, I whispered, watching him struggle. You love that I'm not a burden anymore. But to me, you're just a memory I'm finally ready to forget. I signaled the guards. Get him out of my sight. I watched them drag him toward the elevator. He was sobbing now, his forehead pressed against the floor. I felt a strange flicker of pity, but it died quickly. This wasn't cruelty. This was just the bill finally coming due. It was done. I am finally free. Higher, Mommy, higher. Leo's laughter rang out like a bell, cutting through the humid afternoon air. I smiled, giving the swing another gentle push. Hold on tight, Superman, I called out. It was a mistake coming here. I knew at the moment I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I turned around slowly, my hand instinctively reaching for the strap of my purse. Liam was standing behind the large oak tree near the sandbox. He wasn't in a suit today. He was wearing a wrinkled polo shirt, and he looked like he hadn't slept in a week. He wasn't looking at me, though. He was staring at the swing set. He was staring at Leo. You followed me, I said, my voice low and dangerous as I stepped between him and the playground. I just wanted to see you, Liam stammered, stepping out from the shade. I didn't know you had ... company. Go away, Liam. I'm calling security. Alara, wait. He slowed the swing down, dragging his sneakers in the mulch. Mommy? Who is that man? The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush bones. Liam looked from Leo to me and then back to Leo. He saw the nose. He saw the jawline, but mostly he saw the eyes. The same piercing electric blue that used to make me melt? He looks like himself, I snapped, turning to grab the swing chains. Leo, get off. We're leaving. Wait. Liam lunged forward, grabbing my arm. I ripped it away like his touch was acid. Don't touch me. The math, he gasped, his chest heaving. He's 5? ELARA. 5 years ago. The day I left. He covered his mouth, his knees shaking. You were pregnant? That day? When I walked out? Yes, I said, cold as ice. I was holding the test behind my back while you told me I was a dead weight. Oh my God, he choked out. Tears spilled over his lashes. Is he? Is he mine? Tell me the truth. I held him when he had fevers. You? You were at a gala drinking champagne. I didn't know. Liam screamed, falling to his knees in the mulch. People in the park were starting to stare, but he didn't care. If I had known, I never would have left. I would have stayed. You would have stayed out of obligation, I corrected him, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. It turns out money can't buy you a son. Let me talk to him. Let me tell him who I am. I'm his father. Leo shrank back, burying his face in my skirt. Mommy, I'm scared. You're a donor, and we don't need donations. I scooped Leo up into my arms, holding him tight. Liam wailed, curling into a ball in the dirt. I'm not taking him away, I said, turning my heel. You threw him away 5 years ago. You don't get to recycle people when you're lonely. Mommy, why is that man crying? Leo whispered as I marched toward the car. Because, baby, I said, not looking back at the wreckage behind me. He realized he lost the only lottery that actually matters. The doorbell rang, a sharp, insistent sound that echoed through the high ceilings of the foyer. I checked the security monitor. An older woman stood on the porch, twisting a handkerchief in her hands, looking over her shoulder nervously. Mrs. Reed, Liam's mother. I felt a surge of nausea, but I forced it down. I opened the door not wide enough to welcome her, just enough to acknowledge her presence. Alara, she cried out the moment she saw me. Her face crumpled into a theatrical mask of grief. Oh, thank heavens. I didn't believe Liam until I saw the address myself. What are you doing here, Mrs. Reed? I asked, my hand gripping the cold brass handle. I came to see my grandson. She sobbed, trying to push past me. My own flesh and blood. How could you keep him from us? I blocked her path with my arm. Keep him from you? You didn't know he existed until yesterday. That's not fair. We would have helped. She dabbed at dry eyes, but her gaze was already wandering. She wasn't looking for a child. She was staring at the crystal chandelier, the winding marble staircase, and the expensive art on the walls. Her eyes gleamed with a hunger I recognized instantly. It wasn't love. It was greed. Can I come in? She asked, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. It's cold out here. And we have so much to discuss. Liam, he's in a bad way, Alara. The debts. That awful Vance girl ruined him. And you think I'm going to fix it? I asked, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Well, your family, she insisted, finally managing to squeeze past me into the foyer. You really have landed on your feet, haven't you? Surely you can spare a little to help the father of your child get back on track. For the boy's sake. I watched her assess the value of my home like a pawn shop owner. It made my skin crawl. Family, I repeated, closing the door but staying right in front of it. That's a funny word coming from you. What do you mean? She blinked, feigning innocence. I've always liked you, Alara. Do you remember the phone call, Mrs. Reed? I asked, stepping closer to her. 5 years ago. About 3 weeks after Liam left, I was sleeping in a motel. I had $4 to my name. I called you. She stiffened, her hand freezing on a vase. I don't recall. I do, I said, my voice shaking with suppressed anger. I told you I was pregnant. I told you I had nowhere to go. Do you remember what you said? She stayed silent, her eyes darting to the exit. You said, Liam has a bright future, and I won't let a gold digger anchor him down, and then you hung up. I was protecting my son, she shrilled, her mask slipping. You were a waitress, and nobody. How was I supposed to know you'd turn out like this? She gestured frantically at the luxury around us. Exactly, I said, my voice cold as steel. You made a bet based on my bank account, and you lost. I grabbed the handle of the front door and threw it wide open. The cold wind rushed in, ruffling her cheap coat. Get out. Hilara, please, we're destitute. She wailed, clutching my arm with desperate strength. He's your son's father. You owe us. I owe you nothing but the silence you gave me, I said, peeling her fingers off my silk sleeve one by one. You didn't want a poor daughter-in-law, I said, looking her dead in the eye. So you don't get a rich one either, you heartless witch. She screamed as I pushed her onto the porch. I learned from the best, I replied. I slammed the door in her face, the sound echoing like a gunshot, signaling the final death of the girl I used to be. The conference room smelled of lemon polish and expensive cologne. My lawyer, Mr. Sterling, sat to my right, tapping a gold pen against a thick file. Across the mahogany table sat Liam. He looked like a ghost of the man I once knew. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes were sunken, and he reeked of stale coffee in desperation. Mr. Harper is seeking 50-50 custody, his court-appointed lawyer announced, adjusting his glasses nervously. He believes it is in the child's best interest to have a relationship with his father. Is that so? I asked, leaning back in my chair. A relationship or a paycheck? That's an accusation. His lawyer shot back. It's a fact, I replied, my voice calm. Chloe filed for divorce on Tuesday. You were fired from Vance Enterprises on Wednesday. You filed this motion on Thursday. The timeline is quite convenient, isn't it, Liam? Liam slammed his hand on the table, making the water pitcher rattle. This isn't about money, Alara. It's about my son. I have a right to be in his life. You had a right 5 years ago, I said, meeting his gaze without flinching. You waived it. I was scared, he pleaded, his voice cracking. I was young. People make mistakes. Mistakes of forgetting to take out the trash, Liam. Abandoning your pregnant girlfriend to starve is a choice. We are prepared to move to trial, his lawyer interjected. Unless a settlement involving spousal support. Child support, Liam corrected quickly, sweat beading on his forehead. Support for Leo to make sure he has a standard of living. He has a standard of living, I said, sliding a single sheet of paper across the table. He lives in a mansion. He goes to private school. He has a trust fund. You, however, are facing bankruptcy. I can bounce back. Liam insisted, though his hands were shaking. I just need a chance. I want to be a dad. Do you? I asked softly. Mr. Sterling, please play the audio from the voicemail. Exhibit B. Mr. Sterling pressed a button on his laptop. The room went silent. Then Liam's voice, younger and crueler, filled the air. Alara, stop calling me. I don't care if you're sick. I don't care about the baby. It's a burden. Get rid of it or deal with it yourself. Just leave me alone. The recording clicked off. The silence that followed was suffocating. The mediator, a stern woman who had been taking notes, stopped writing. She slowly took off her reading glasses and looked at Liam with pure, unadulterated disgust. Mr. Harper, she said, her voice icy. Is that your voice? Liam opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked at his lawyer, who was busy shuffling papers, refusing to make eye contact. I didn't mean it, Liam whispered, his face crumbling. I was just ... You called my son a burden, I said, standing up. You told me to get rid of it. You don't want a son, Liam. You want a lifeline, and I'm not throwing you one. Alara, please, he sobbed, burying his face in his hands. I have nothing. Chloe took the house. My parents won't speak to me. I have nothing. You have your freedom, I said, picking up my purse. That's what you wanted, isn't it? A life without burdens. I'm sorry. He wailed, his shoulders shaking as he wept uncontrollably. I'm so sorry. I looked at him, a weeping, broken man in a cheap suit, and felt absolutely nothing. We're done here, I told the mediator. I walked out the door, the sound of his sobbing fading behind me like a bad dream finally coming to an end. You've checked the perimeter security 3 times, Alara. Relax, Julian whispered, leaning close to my ear. His breath was warm against my skin. I can't help it, I murmured, clutching my champagne glass. The court case ... the stress. I feel like I'm still waiting for the floor to drop out from under me. The floor is solid marble, Julian teased, taking the glass from my hand and setting it on a passing tray. And you won. You defeated him. Now stop being his CEO for 5 minutes and just be Alara. Easy for you to say, I sighed, though a smile tugged at my lips. Come with me, he said, interlacing his fingers with mine. Where? The investors. The investors are drunk on free vintage wine. They won't miss us for 10 minutes. He led me away from the crowded ballroom, out the French doors, and into the garden. The cool night air hit us, smelling of jasmine and rain. The noise of the party faded to a dull, distant hum. Better? He asked, stopping near the stone fountain. Much, I admitted, looking up at the moon. It's peaceful. I have a confession, Julian said abruptly. He turned to face me, his expression shifting from playful to serious. If you tell me the Asian market crashed, I'm pushing you in the fountain. He laughed, a low, rich sound that vibrated in his chest. No, it's about us. Us? My heart skipped a beat. I didn't hire you for your designs that day at the diner, Alara. I blinked in confusion. Excuse me? I mean, the designs were brilliant, he corrected quickly. But that's not why I stopped. I stopped because I saw a woman sketching on a grease-stained napkin like her life depended on it. I saw a fire in your eyes that terrified me a little. I've loved you since that moment. Julian, I whispered, the wind stealing the sound. I know you're scared, he said, stepping closer. I know you think love is a cage because of what he did to you. But I'm not him. I don't want to own you, Ilara. I want to build with you. I want to stand beside you. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small black velvet box. Slowly, he lowered himself onto one knee. Julian, what are you doing? I gasped, my hands flying to my mouth. I'm asking you to be my partner, he said, his eyes locking onto mine. In business, in parenting, in life, will you marry me? He opened the box. The ring was simple, a flawless solitaire diamond that caught the moonlight. It wasn't flashy or demanding. It was steady. Just like him, you don't care about my past? I asked, my voice trembling. About the baggage? About the drama? Your past made you the queen you are today, he said firmly. I love all of it. Every scar. Yes, I breathed, tears spilling over my lashes. Yes, Julian. He slid the ring onto my finger and stood up, pulling me into a kiss that tasted like a promise kept. As I wrapped my arms around his neck, my eyes drifted past his shoulder, toward the massive iron gates at the very end of the driveway. A car was idling there in the shadows. A rusted, beat-up Honda Civic. I saw the silhouette of a man in the driver's seat. He was leaning forward, gripping the steering wheel. He was watching us. Watching the kiss, watching the laughter. Watching the life he could have had if he hadn't been a coward. Alara? Julian asked, pulling back slightly. Is everything okay? I looked at the sad, lonely car one last time as it slowly reversed into the darkness, disappearing into the night where it belonged. Everything is perfect, I smiled, turning my face back to the man who actually deserved me. Just a shadow fading away. Higher, Dad! Throw it higher! Leo's voice drifted up to the balcony, pure joy carried on the wind. I'm trying, Leo. But you're too fast for me. Julian laughed, chasing after the bright red frisbee my son had launched toward the rosebush. Alara, help! Your son is an Olympic athlete. I rested my hands on the warm stone railing, laughing. My other hand drifted instinctively to the swell of my stomach. A small, fluttering kick answered me. Did you hear them? I whispered to the new life growing inside me. Your brother is going to wear your father out before you even arrive, ma'am? I turned. Maria, our housekeeper, stood in the doorway looking hesitant. She held a silver tray. A single, crumpled white envelope sat in the center. I'm sorry to disturb you, Miss Alara. The post came. Most of it went to your office, but this one. It was marked personal. The handwriting looks... Well, the security team scanned it. It's safe, but ... I picked it up. My fingers brushed the cheap, thin paper. I didn't need a return address. I knew that jagged, frantic scrawl anywhere. Liam. It felt heavy, like holding a stone. Thank you, Maria, I said, my voice steady. That will be all. Shall I bring you some herbal tea? You look a bit pale. No, Maria, I'm fine, just a ghost from the past. She nodded understandingly and left, closing the glass door behind her. I stood alone in the silence of my bedroom, holding the envelope. I could guess what was inside. I'm sorry. I was a fool. Please forgive me, or maybe I have changed. It doesn't matter what it says, I said aloud to the empty room. I walked to the marble fireplace where a low fire crackled to chase away the evening chill. 5 years ago, I would have ripped this open, I murmured, staring at the flames. I would have scoured every line, looking for a single word of regret to validate my pain. I would have cried over it. I held the envelope over the fire. The heat licked at my fingertips. But I don't need your validation anymore, Liam, I said, my voice gaining strength. I don't need your apology to be happy. My happiness is out there, in the garden. I dropped it. The paper caught instantly. The edges curled black, the ink vanishing into smoke. I didn't feel a surge of malicious triumph. I didn't feel anger. I felt lightness. Goodbye, I whispered as the last corner turned to ash. Enjoy the view from the outside. Alara? Julian's voice came from the balcony door. He stepped inside, wiping sweat from his forehead, looking concerned. Marie said you looked serious. Is everything okay? Is it the baby? Everything is perfect, I said, turning to him with a genuine smile. He walked over, wrapping his arms around my waist, his large hands resting gently over our unborn baby. Leo wants to know if you're coming down. He says he needs a referee because I'm cheating. You? Cheating? I teased, leaning into his solid warmth. He claims my height gives me an unfair advantage. Julian grinned, kissing my forehead. Are you sure you're okay? You seemed far away for a second. I was just taking out the trash, I said softly, glancing at the fireplace. Trash? He followed my gaze to the dying embers. Just an old receipt, I said, turning his face back to mine. Nothing worth keeping. The debt is paid. I looked over his shoulder one last time, out past the balcony, past the iron gates. The street was empty. The world was quiet. Liam was out there somewhere, likely crying in a cold apartment, watching my life through the window of a magazine. He was just a spectator now, sitting in the cheap seats while I lived the main event. And what a beautiful show it was. Come on, Julian said, pulling me gently toward the door. Our son is waiting. I'm right beside you, I replied. I walked out into the sunlight, leaving the ashes in the past behind me, finally truly free.